Alright, this video is going to be, I got the camera backwards, so the lens is usually over here, but now it's over here, so I got to make sure I'm not looking over here like this when you guys are over here. We're going to talk about my CZ97 Bren Ten Killer. Is it a Bren Ten Killer? First and foremost, the magazine is empty. The gun is empty. Safety checked and cleared. We're going to put the magazine back in just so the gun looks complete. So I had built up this CZ97, purchased it, and kind of as a project. I wanted to, I kind of knew of its shortcomings, maybe the springs and little things like that. And so I bought it, and I knew I was going to buy all new springs for it and just shoot it and see what I thought of it, if I was going to keep it. But I kind of knew prior to buying it that I was going to have to kind of tear into it and work on it a little bit. First of all, I bought the gun. I bought the CZ97 and just bone stock. Took it to the range. I hadn't done anything to the gun. Just oiled it, and I took it to the range, and it shot very, very well. It shot very well. I was shooting a group about like this with maybe a couple, maybe 2 shots outside a group like this, and it wasn't that far outside the group. So shooting really well. These guns are known have a reputation for being very accurate, and that goes for CZ75s and CZ97. This gun has a good reputation. It's got a few quirks, and I just think because of when it came out, it's not super popular. What I mean is, because the more modern, the polymer guns, that, and so people, when I think of 45s, I'll steal 45s, they just think of 1911s, and they just have that in their brain. But for whatever reason, this is not a super popular gun, and they probably could make some changes to the gun, CZ, that would make the gun more popular. We'll talk about that. There's a few things that I didn't like about the gun, but I've gone ahead and changed, and had to upgrade and definitely put some money into it. So I kind of always have, when I first started getting into guns, there was a gun store not far from me, and there was this old man that owned it, and not that many people really went there to the gun shop. He was a little bit more expensive than other gun shops, and I didn't know a ton about guns, but he was like this old man. It's kind of like Clint Eastwood from what's that movie where it's like the Asian gang? I can't even remember what that's called. Just like an old man, like, you know what I mean? The kind of guy who you would think would look at me and just, I'm one of those people, like, a lot of people just take a look at it and just be like, man, we don't like this guy. You know what I mean? Like, he seemed like the kind of guy that you would take a look at me, I got earrings and everything, and just my personality is a little bit, I actually have a really big sense of humor. I don't know if that comes across in videos. Probably not, but I can be a little bit jokey. I'm very intense in a way, but I have a good sense of humor, And so yeah, but for some reason, me and this guy, we always got along, and I did used to ride my chopper there that I built myself, and it actually was a different bike at the time that I had put together. And so he'd see my bikes, my Harleys and stuff, so maybe that's what it was, or maybe I just didn't seem like an idiot, but I generally, do like firearms. I'm interested in guns, like old guns, all types of guns, anything just mechanical. I just like guns. They're interesting to me, even if they have flaws, guns that were total flops. It's just interesting reading and learning about them. But anyway, this guy, he had a lot of black powder guns and all this stuff, and he was like a specialist in that. And this place was like a museum. Okay. He spoke very highly of CZ pistols, this old man, and that stuck with me from the very get-go. In fact, I didn't really think too much of it other than, I was looking at different guns. I said, oh, what's this? And I remember holding a CZ. It was a CZ75. And I was like, man, this is a cool gun, And I remember saying, oh, it looks like the Browning high power, because I had known about like high powers probably from looking at them in a book, in a history book. It's like, oh, it looks like a Browning high power. He's like, yeah, blah, blah, blah. And he told me about the guns. And he's like, yeah, CZ are actually the #1 sold gun in the world, like as far as like police agencies and militaries, more throughout the world use CZs than even Glocks. And I was like, really, it's interesting, And I didn't really know like how rare that was, because at the time, this is years ago, CZs were not in other gun stores. I ended up going to other gun stores and they didn't even have CZs there, and I never even really thought about it. But this guy was selling, his name was Jerry, this guy was selling CZs, back then, and he spoke very highly of CZs. So I've always respected CZ. I've always liked them. I just never owned one for whatever reason. Probably because 9mm. I've never owned a 9mm gun. I'm just not into them. I had a Glock 23, and I had different guns like that. It was 40 cal, and I had a car that was in 40 cal, and then I had a lot of revolvers. I kind of got away from semi-autos. At one point, I shot nothing but revolvers for like 6 years. I didn't even own any semi-autos. I sold them all, and that's pretty much where I was, and just kind of shooting revolvers and just doing, working a lot and playing with radio, other things that I'm into. And, it's like, man, no semi-autos really were jumping out at me, especially with all the guns being polymer and everything. And I'm just not into polymer guns. I tried to like them, like the Glock 23. I tried to like that gun, but it just didn't do anything for me. It really don't shoot that good. You're not going to shoot a real tight little group like you're going to shoot with like, a nice Colt revolver or a nice old Smith & Wesson revolver. They just don't shoot as good. And, aesthetically, it just doesn't do anything for me. So, I'm looking at different guns. I'm like, the CZ97, I'm like, a gun that I was aware of that was out there. And I was in a gun store and I was talking to a guy that I know, and the old guy, Jerry, that I'm talking about, he passed away, years ago, and he's no longer with us. This was somebody that, that I had known when I had first got into guns, and this is how I got familiar with CZs. Now, I was in a gun store, I'm talking to a guy there. I'm like, you know what, I kind of thinking about maybe buying a CZ97 if I come across one. I'm like, in my head, I'm thinking, let me see, what's a gun that's a semi-auto that's pretty cool? And I'm like, man, I like the CZ97. And I was reading about it online, and for the most part, people were talking about how accurate they are, and any shortcomings of it, I really wasn't aware of. And he's like, oh, well, we've got one in stock. And he goes, I'm like, really? I'm like, let me see that bad boy. And he goes and gets it, and he pulls it out, and he pulls out this gun, which is the 97B, because they make a 97BD as a decocker. Now, I won't own a gun with a decocker. I can't stand decockers. I've got a certain criteria for semi-auto, and it's just like kind of why I lost interest in them, because not too many guns really fit the criteria. I want double action. I don't like safeties at all. I like double action to single action, and I can't stand decockers. All right? Now this gun has everything that fits that criteria. Oh, and also I cannot have a gun if it has ambidextrous safety. I cannot do that. I just can't deal with it. Okay, there's a lot of OCD going on here. So this gun has all those qualities. You know, you can cock it, and you can carry it cocked and locked. Now, I would never carry a gun cocked and locked because I don't like safeties. Okay. Now, here's another thing. This gun, with no decocker, you have to cock it. You have to lower the hammer manually. Now, I lower it to the safety notch. You could lower it all the way. This gun, I wouldn't because there's no firing pin block. I removed the firing pin block, so I carry it on the first notch there. But what's cool about this gun, now when you do that with other guns, because I've had a Beretta like that, a Beretta 84, and it was one of the original ones. Now, there was no decocker, and you could carry it cocked and locked. And then you could lower the hammer, but if you lowered the hammer, the problem was the safety could get hit on. You're carrying it safety off. The hammer's been lowered, but you could still put the safety on. So this CZ97, they designed this so once you lower the hammer, you cannot put the safety on. So that cannot happen. You cannot accidentally engage the safety. You can only use the safety when it's cocked and locked. So I mean, so how awesome is that? You know, that's exactly what I'm looking for. In fact, I've even thought about removing the safety altogether. I would just machine this down, and inside you can see how it is, and just because I don't use the safety. If I'm at the range, even if I were to shoot five rounds and I was going to stop shooting, put the gun down for some reason, then the gun is going to be cocked. Obviously, I would just lower the hammer back to the safety notch. You know what I mean? So, and when you're doing that, I was in a weird position just now. I just lowered it all the way because I'm holding it so you can see it. But in your finger there, and you just take your finger off the trigger and lower it down to the safety notch. Okay, and it's perfectly safe to do that. So this gun had all the criteria, everything that I like about the gun. So I bought the gun and proceeded to upgrade all the springs. I've got everything here that's been upgraded. First thing I did, after I shot the gun, and it shot really well, I took this is the stock guide rod, it's polymer, and I ordered a full-length steel guide rod, put that in the gun. Then and this is not in any particular order, it was kind of the trigger return, it says return pin, but it's the return spring. This is the stock one. Apparently they're a little bit more brittle. I upgraded that to Occasion Gunworks. This is the old part in the new parts bag. Upgraded that to it's like a music wire, and it's a slightly reduced power. That's the only spring in the gun that's reduced power. All the other springs are stock weight. And that's just in the return, the trigger return spring. But it's an upgraded, like a music wire spring. I removed the firing pin lifter, and the spring is removed from the gun. Now, what I ended up putting in there was you have to put a firing pin lifter spacer. So it's basically just a steel spacer that fills up this gap. That's actually more solid in the trigger than this thing. This thing is a little wobbly because of the way the spring is in there and everything. So that makes the gun more reliable. One less spring. If that spring breaks, your gun's not going to function. So this makes the gun better. Makes the gun better, more reliable, more rugged. Here's the firing pin block. The firing pin block removed. Again, spring on the firing pin block. If that spring were to break, the firing pin block will drop. Or if the firing pin block got cruded up, got stuck. And that's probably not going to happen, I get it. But, hey, they're making the gun more reliable, more simple. And also in here is these two parts right here is the chamber indicator, and that's the spring on the chamber indicator. Same thing. If something were to go wrong with this, You know, it's just more parts in the way. So how many springs have we removed from the gun? 1, 2, that's 3 small springs that really don't need to be in the gun. And if you want to read about firing pin blocks and CZs, you know, technically is your gun safer? Yeah, maybe if you're throwing your gun around, but as far as using your gun and durability, I think it's safer to have a gun that's going to function and work. And it makes the trigger better, which means you're going to shoot better, which means it's safer because say someone's shooting at you, you got a gun that shoots better without that in there. So, but no, seriously, Angus Hobdell, I think that's his name, from CZ Customs, he said that they tested CZs without firing pin blocks. They were dropping them off everything. They could not get the guns to fire without the firing pin block. Mostly that's just something that is for legal reasons that they start putting that stuff in guns. Now, remember, I have all the stock springs. Now, if you had lightweight springs, maybe that firing pin, like if you had a lightweight firing pin spring, maybe that firing pin could come forward more easily than with the stock weight springs. I bought a new upgraded steel, I forget what type of steel, firing pin from Cajun Gunworks. It's not extended length, it's a normal length, it's just in a better grade steel. Put that in the gun. Basically anything I could do. Oh, here's another one. What's this? The trigger pin, here's the stock one. There's a floating trigger pin from Cajun Gunworks, and that's in the gun. That allows you, it can come in and out. It's also solid. The one that's in there looks more like a standard like dowel rod. It's not a dowel rod, but it looks like one. Roll pin. This is solid, so it looks a lot nicer in the gun, and it lets you take your trigger in and out without, you know, once you take the spring off the trigger, the floating firing pin just comes right out. You know, you don't need to be pounding anything or anything like that. Another deal. Oh, the gun already had a wolf spring in it, recoil spring, so that's still in the gun. This pin here, I think it's called the retaining pin. When I put the new firing pin in there, you got to knock this pin out, take the firing pin out. I didn't knock the pin all the way out, put the new one in, and then just put the old pin in. So I do have an upgraded retaining pin, which is like from Cajun Gunworks. It's right here, and it's like a higher grade steel. This pin takes a beating every time especially if you dry fire your gun, which I don't do. I don't dry fire my gun. The firing pin hits it every time it drops, and it can actually crack and break the retaining pin that's in there. And so this is a higher grade steel for more durability for that. So next time I take the firing pin out, I'll put the new upgraded retaining pin in there. So basically all these mechanical upgrades is what I meant to do with this gun when I was like kind of just like, you know, and when I was working on this gun, I said I want to make this gun ultra reliable. Now I had left after shooting the gun, taking out the firing pin block and everything. I said I was shooting a group like this with maybe a couple over here. Guys, I shot a baseball size group. I have a video of me showing my target. After I did this stuff, I shot a baseball size group. I mean, just one hole. And that's with the stock trigger and the stock hammer with the normal creep. And there's a slight grittiness that's in CZ triggers. But hey, I said, you know, it's got the normal creep in the single action. Because there's upgrades. You can upgrade this hammer. You can do upgrades to the trigger where it's like a single action, kind of like a 1911. But for a self-defense gun, for a usable gun, I don't really want that in my gun, especially when I'm shooting a baseball-sized whole group. You see what I'm saying? I mean, I can't shoot any better. Could I make the trigger feel better sitting in my house, pulling the trigger? By doing that, yeah. But if I'm like literally, I couldn't shoot any better than I'm shooting with the gun. And, you know, in my eyes, it's better for a self-defense gun. You don't have that hair trigger. You know what I mean? And people could argue that, you know, I could carry a 1911 for self-defense. Well, yeah, you can, but generally speaking, I like this setup better. And so after I did all those things, I ended up buying these grips. These were from CZ Custom Shop. Don't order from them jerks. These are not the grips I ordered. They had a picture of them without the logo, you know, for sale, for a price. Here's a picture of the grip. Here's the price. They had the cart. And then it was a completely different pattern and everything. And then they sent me these grips, which were not black. I sprayed them and then I sanded them down. So there's like black under, you know, down inside there. You know, and then I'd call them about it and they're like, oh, well, our webpage is not up to date, you know. I'm like, so you're showing a picture of something for sale that's not what's for sale? Like, really? It's like if you ordered a pair of, you know, blue Nikes, and then they you know, had a picture of blue Nikes, and then they just send you red ones. Like, what? You had a picture of blue ones. Like, do you not understand the purpose of the picture? Like, why not just, like, really? And not on the phone, too. Like, they're just not understanding this concept. That's not how the world works. So, those guys are complete jerks over there, man. That Angus Hobdell, he seems like a nice guy, but that ain't the guy you're going to deal with when you call over there. They got pictures of stuff. They just send you whatever. They just send you whatever. Just click on something, and then you try and order something, and, you know, what it says it is, and the picture of what it is, that doesn't mean anything. They'll just send you whatever they feel like sending you. Like, really? So I don't want to order nothing from them because you don't know if you're going to get what you ordered. I won't order anything. The only thing I got stuck ordering from them was the firing pin spacer, but that literally cost like $3 or $5 or something. So after I did all that to the gun, I was like, man, what else can we do to this thing? Oh, and the gun, shooting perfect 6 o'clock hold. I'm like, man, I'm really stoked on this gun. You know what I mean? Just slight 6 o'clock hold and everything. I'm like, this gun's a keeper. It really is. And so I ended up sending the gun off to Cajun Gunworks, and they milled out the slide and put a 1911, a Wilson Combat match grade barrel bushing in the gun. While it was there, I had him install an LPA fully adjustable rear sight. Was this necessary? Not really, but I like the all black. I'm not pointing the gun at myself, by the way. I like the all black rear sight. The stock sight had the night sights and I had filled them in with black, but the divots were still there. You see what I'm saying? The divots were still there, and even though it was black, they would kind of reflect in the light. To me, it's distracting. I just wanted this, and it actually increased your sight picture by quite a bit, like almost an inch, you know, longer sight radius. So I mean, it just made the gun just shoot better, and it's really cool. And the sight is, the sight is very nice. They actually put the sight in the exact same spot, the same height as the stock one, which was already shooting perfect. The stock one was shooting great. But it just gives you a better picture, and hey, you know, for some reason you wanted to adjust it, you can. But I did take a screwdriver and turn it, and then turn it back, you know, a couple clicks. The clicks are very positive, and it's a very high quality sight, made in Italy, I think, LPA. But yeah, they milled that out, and the barrel is slightly recessed in there, which means the crown is never going to get dinged, and that's an oversized barrel bushing. And guys, this gun in this configuration, with the way I have this gun set up, is it a Bren 10 Killer? Now, we didn't talk about the Bren 10 because I'm talking so much, but the Bren 10 was basically like a CZ75 inspired gun that they like the CZ75 design, and they just chambered in 10 millimeter, which is kind of what this is. It's a CZ75 design inside that's been chambered in 45 ACP. The Bren 10 is 11 rounds of 10 millimeter. This is 11 rounds of 45 ACP. Now, the 10 millimeter, yeah, it's a little more power, but basically it's 11 rounds, an all steel gun in a CZ75 style frame and setup. It's 11 rounds of something that's going to put you on your you-know-what. You know what I mean? So, but the Bren 10, they had something with the magazines. I'm not a Bren 10 aficionado by any means, so don't quote me on everything, but they had some issues with the magazines, like the people making the magazines weren't working properly, and I think at one point they were sending out Bren 10s to people that bought them with no magazine, probably telling them they're going to send them one later, but you get a gun with no magazine. So, so the magazines in the CZ97 are dead reliable. Now, I believe this is a Bren Ten Killer. Oh, and it don't have the goofy. A Bren 10's got a cross pin in it for a safety for when you want to lower your hammer. You push the cross pin in, and then you lower your hammer in case your finger were to slip off. It'll hit the cross pin. This does not have any of that safety stuff. Okay, you have to lower this by putting your finger in front of it in case it slips off. Take your finger off the trigger, then lower it down to the safety notch. You know what I mean? Earlier on the video, I lowered it all the way because I was kind of holding in a weird position, and the gun is also unloaded, so I wasn't, but you got to keep your finger, and you have to do it like that. But the problem with that cross pin is, I guess when you go to rack the slide, you could push the cross pin in. Now you've racked your gun, maybe you put it on cocked and locked, maybe you put your gun cocked and locked. I'm talking about the Bren Bren 10. You've engaged that cross pin when you were racking the slide, and now you take your gun off safety and the gun won't fire because you've pushed that cross pin. So there's none of that on a CZ97. You don't, and like I said, once you lower the your hammer to the safety, you can't even engage the safety. So there's no issues like that at all, like you have with the Bren 10. So guys, this gun in this configuration, really the only thing I don't like about this gun is this plate up here where the chamber round indicator goes. It slides in there, and it's mechanically in there, and it's held in by an Allen. And I've never had any problems with this plate. But if that's one thing that they should correct with the CZ is get rid of this. Have this all solid, like on a CZ75. And not only would, it would sit well with me, knowing that that's not there with that screw. And you could put some locked head in there. This screw on this one, it threads in pretty solid, and I've never had it back out. But just aesthetically, it would look so much better without that. And then get rid of the chamber indicator altogether and just have it like on a CZ75, make it look nicer. That's really the only thing I don't like about the gun. Everything else I really like about this gun. And is it a Bren Ten Killer? Guys, I think it is. I think this gun in this configuration is more tactical, more tactical. If you don't like polymer guns like me, people look at guns, what's the best gun? This is the best. But if you don't even consider polymer guns, like me, you're looking at all steel guns, and to me this gun just dominates pretty much everything that I see out on the market. And that's in this configuration. And it's kind of cool. It's like a project, and it's more one of a kind. And anyway, guys, that's my CZ Bren Ten Killer. And I just put Bren Ten Killer just as something to talk about, make a video about this gun, my awesome CZ97. I'll see you guys later.